First, I'd like to welcome you to MEC's 63rd annual meeting. It's great to have you here. We got a busy day, and we're going to get started so we stay on time. Our first session is a very important session on the creative economy, something that has really had a lot of focus over the last couple of years in Mississippi. And after you see this presentation, I think you'll understand why, because it has a huge economic impact on our state. Moderating this session will be Malcolm White. Let me tell you just a little bit about Malcolm. Malcolm is from rural Stone County. Now, Malcolm, where exactly is urban Stone County?
All of Stone County is rural.
That's what I thought. But anyway, Malcolm is a well-known person in the hospitality industry. He and his brother Hal opened Hal and Mal's here in Jackson, and then he also started the Mal St. Patty's Day Parade 29 years ago. Is that correct? 30 years ago. That is a long time, and anybody that comes down here on St. Patrick's weekend knows that is a major, major event. It has about a $10 million local impact on the economy. The event's raised over $250,000 for Barry Bladson Hospital. As Executive Director of the Arts Commission here in Mississippi, he's worked tirelessly for the arts across the state in the cultural rebuilding of the Gulf Coast after Katrina. Would y'all please welcome Malcolm White.
Thanks, Scott. I'm really happy to be here. Welcome, one and all. The reason I say I'm from rural Stone County is people often accuse me of being from Jackson, which is, you know, I'm proud to live in Jackson, but once I had a board member who said, Malcolm, you don't know anything about rural. I said, oh, really? So I grew up in Stone County. I went to high school in Prentice County. What's not rural about that? So that's the reason I always point out that I'm from rural Stone County. So today we're going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, that has been a great adventure in state government, a great partnership between the Mississippi Development Authority and your Mississippi Arts Commission. We're going to talk about the creative economy, and we've assembled an amazing and I think very gifted and talented array of panelists who are going to do most of the talking. So rest assured, this will not be the Malcolm White Show. So first I'd like to introduce Betsy Bradley, to my right, your left. Betsy is the director of the Mississippi Museum of Art. She's also a member of the Blueprint Steering Committee, and I give her a lot of credit for the creative economy being included in Blueprint Mississippi, which is a place that we are really happy to be. Betsy once had my job at the Arts Commission, but she outgrew it and went to the Museum of Art, where she has become one of the most effective nonprofit arts-based leaders in our state. Next is the Honorable Cheri Barry from Meridian, the Queen City. She is the mayor there. Welcome, Cheri.
Thank you.
She and I have been working on a number of initiatives in Meridian, and we host our Whole Schools initiative there every summer. We've had a lot of initiatives that have proven successful there. I don't have to tell you who's from Meridian. I'll let her tell you, but it's a very important creative economy in our state. Milton Chambliss is next. Milton is from Claiborne County. He's the Economic Development Director there. He's the Executive Director. And Milton and I are working on one of the creative economy pilots that we are taking theory and putting into practice. And so we'll be working together a lot in the very near future. Of course, Port Gibson is one of our very beautiful and amazing creative economies in Mississippi, and he is steering that ship there on the mighty Mississippi. Next, old friend and a former board member of the Mississippi Arts Commission, Robert St. John from Hattiesburg. Robert is a restaurateur. He's also a creative enterprise entrepreneur and quite a juggernaut down in South Mississippi. He's done a lot with his imagination and his hospitality enterprise. And finally, we'll end with Bill Crump. Bill is the Director of Governmental Affairs at Viking Range Corporation and Chairman of the Greenwood LaFleur Carroll Economic Development Foundation. It's a mouthful. So we'll be looking forward to hearing all about the Vikings' success, Vikings' struggle with the recession, Vikings' amazing story, and also the Greenwood story, the story of taking a creative economy and revitalizing a town that was sort of struggling, much like Clarksdale, before they found their voice and found their way through the creative economy. So beyond these beautiful and amazing and gifted, talented people that we have up here, we're also going to be showing you a couple of short films. So it is the Crossroads Film Festival week in Jackson, so we're going to have our own little mini film festival here. So we're going to talk to you a bit, we're going to share what's going on in our communities and in our enterprises and in our lives, but we're also going to show you some great visuals. We'll start with Betsy Bradley, and she will tell you a bit about her world.
Thank you, Malcolm. Oh, there you go. It's live. Well, I'm happy to be part of this. As Malcolm said, I've been working in this world of the creative economy for a long time, and it's very exciting to me to see it become part of the agenda for the Mississippi Economic Council and for the economic plan for the state. Participating on the steering council for Blueprint Mississippi was really an honor for me. It was also very educational. I learned a whole lot. I learned a whole lot about all of the needs of communities across the state and the particular place that the creative sector fit into that. So I know you all have heard a lot of the findings of Blueprint, but to kind of reiterate some of them that helped us get to where we are with this creative economy picture. There was some interesting data that came up from the road shows that Blake and Sandy went on last fall to communities all over the state to listen and to let people vote about what mattered. And there was some kind of interesting juxtapositions between some of the data. 49% of Mississippians feel that their children will have to leave the state to find a good job. That's kind of overwhelming and intimidating and not exciting. Yet, 7 of 8 regions in the state identified their biggest resources as, quote, natural, cultural, community, and infrastructure resources. Natural, cultural, community, and infrastructure resources. 2 of those regions, the Delta and the Coast, defined their greatest opportunities for economic growth as tourism and largely defined tourism as cultural. In the Blueprint report, it says cultural heritage and the arts were high on the minds of roadshow attendees. And I think that was surprising to a lot of the research team that was working on Blueprint Mississippi. What we heard, what Blake and his crew heard, were that the concerns of these people who are worried about their children having to leave Mississippi to find a good job were also very energetic about what could happen in their communities, about what they had seen happening in their communities because of creative things, from Rolling Fork, where people had reclaimed an old homestead by putting on dinner theater, to the things we would expect, like the Blues in the Delta with the B.B. King Museum, or Literary Oxford, or all the things in this report. So it was very interesting to see that while there was some concern about the future economically in Mississippi, there was this great energy and hope based on what particular and unique assets each community had. They defined their communities by these by these cultural and heritage identifiers. We are the home of the blues. We are the home of great writers. These are the ways they saw themselves and identified themselves. The second part of Blueprint was all of the research that was done by a team of academicians. And one of the things they found was that jobs in the creative class in Mississippi grew by 40,000 over the last decade, more growth than jobs in the service industry. So the creative economy has been growing. It's been creeping up there, kind of like the sleeper industry. At the same time, of course, as you will hear from Malcolm, MDA and the Arts Commission had been compiling this amazing report on the creative economy. And all the data was there, all of the research about particular communities, but also about trends in employment and potential for job growth. all the data gathering had been done by this great partnership. So that made it very easy for Blueprint to integrate the creative economy, to respond to what people had been saying on the road, but to translate it into an actionable strategy in the final Blueprint Mississippi. So that was a very exciting process to hear that there's new language. We've been doing this work for a very long time. You know, an art museum is probably the most traditional kind of member of the creative economy sector there is. But every community has very unique and rich and authentic organizations that are doing this work. And now we have this language called the creative economy. We just opened a garden at the museum in October, and please walk over there and see it. It's right out that window. But we now call that creative placemaking. And that is, we used to call it parks and gardens, and now we call it creative placemaking. But it's important that we are grabbing and owning this language that says this does matter. It matters about how we see our own communities. It matters in terms of this inferiority complex that Mississippians have carried around forever that we're growing out of because we are learning to claim that. I can give you data about how many people come to the museum and how much money they spend and how large our payroll is and what we're pouring into the economy. But I think that one of the things that really matters is beyond the numbers, and that is that we are all realizing that one of our greatest assets and the way we can overcome so many of our economic issues is through owning and embracing and capitalizing on our own culture. So many people said to me during this Blueprint process that a community has to have three legs. It's healthcare, it's education, and it's culture. And if those three aren't working together, industries aren't going to move there, and people aren't going to live there. So I want to end with this one quote that I just read from an economic developer. He said, "Art makes great places attract great talent, and great talent creates great jobs." And I think that that's what we're all about, is keeping that circle going from art to talent to jobs and keeping it right here in Mississippi.
Great. So we're going to show you a little film now that we produced as a part of the creative economy work. Jim Dollarhide, local filmmaker from Jackson, Mississippi boy, did these films for MDA and the Mississippi Arts Commission. This one is about the neighborhood of Fondren. It'll tell the story of how the Fondren neighborhood sort of revitalized itself. And before we roll that, I wanted to give you just a few left brain facts and figures from our study. 3.5% of Mississippi's economy is based in the creative economy organically. We've done nothing to grow this. It simply exists. Over 64,000 jobs. And while, as Betsy said, while the country as a whole's creative economy is declining, Mississippi is growing. So we are in a great place. So at this point, I want to thank Allison Winstead from the Mississippi Arts Commission, who is our Community Development Director, for helping put all this together. I didn't do that earlier. My apologies, Allison. Thanks for all your hard work. Susan Dobbs is here from the Arts Commission. And with that, we will show you a short film on the Fondren neighborhood and the Renaissance there.
Fondren's a wonderful example of a creative economy where you have local artists and musicians coming together where they can and do thrive and prosper here. The community gets out and supports all of our local artists and musicians. We love it. It's what makes this community so special and so exciting.
You know, we live in a state where people did sit around waiting for a smokestack. You had agricultural jobs, and you had some manufacturing jobs. That's a trap that community leaders find themselves falling into all the time, and that's just not how it works. And I think when you have elected officials, business business officials and other community leaders sort of recognizing that, look, we're going to have to roll up the sleeves and solve this thing ourselves. That is a critical first step towards a community beginning to sort of thrive. What I think is so exciting about the times we live in now is this idea of the creative economy, and it's reorienting your thought as a community around attracting creative people who are in the business of selling ideas. And so the great thing that we have going for us is that I believe that the state of Mississippi is inherently one of the most creative places in the country. And so when you can bring together people who celebrate ideas, what happens is when you get a group of people who are creating communities and improving communities so that creative companies can thrive and individuals can thrive, then suddenly you have some magic. And that's what's happening here in Fondren, and it's happening in communities all over the state.
Fondren it's a community full of young families, young professionals. It's got a great feel to it.
All of a sudden, it's just come alive. And it's charming. Just the businesses, the restaurants, wonderful places, and a lot of good places to shop. And so we have a lot to be proud of, and so everybody's taking part in this and enhancing it and keeping it the way it should be.
Fondren's been around a long time, but we're seeing this wonderful rebirth. Just the whole community comes out and supports the events that we have.
There are a lot of events happening in Fondren, and I do think what they do is advertise and show people where you are. The great thing about it is, though, you can't pay for advertising to have 3,000 people walk past your business. You can't buy advertising like that.
You know, we were trying to think how we can make Fondren come alive, and we have a good mix with the arts, eats, and beats. We have the Symphony at Sunset, bring in the symphony, plays at the Cedars. We have Fondren Unwrapped at the holiday season. So all these events come out and bring the people out and together.
You can walk around, you can see, you can see your friends, but you can also see what the artists are doing, what the restaurateurs are doing.
The promise of the creative economy to economic development in communities is an opportunity to create a new enterprise that is authentically and originally your enterprise.
When I open up a restaurant, I'm going to be hiring people that live in the community. And in the last year and a half, we've opened up 4 restaurants, which means that we've employed between 250 and 300 people. And when a factory comes into a small Mississippi town, they're basically given the key to the city for the economic impact that they've had on that town. So employing 250 people, even though we're a restaurant, we have the same economic impact that a factory would have if it were to come to town.
To lure companies back into places like Fondren, it takes a community behind it who's interested in having people come and be a part of the magic that they have. It takes some infrastructure. What we have going for us here is live, work, play in a self-contained little special community. I mean, we're essentially a small town in the middle of a larger city.
The reception that we received from the residents in the area was phenomenal when we opened here. We got a lot of support from these people. They supported it. They support Fondren. They support all the restaurants here. It's just a great community. And they're proud of this area. And they wanted to see it come back. It's come back. It's just a great place to shop. It's a great place to come and dine. It's a great place to work.
There's nothing better than being able to do what you love. And I think Fondren is a lot about people doing exactly what they love.
So what we find here in Fondren is neighbors being artists and musicians and business owners, white collar, blue collar, all ages, races, and there's something that really works when a diverse group of people are all oriented to the same kind of true north.
I don't know what the future holds, but I do know who holds the future. But I think that if we all work together as families, as businesses, I think it's going to go on and just keep getting better. We have the passion for it, and we have the will to make it better and keep on.